Hi guys, welcome back.
Hi, everyone.
Que pasa?
You never know what James is gonna say.
He's usually so
Yellow.
Yellow.
Welcome to part 2 of our Life is Messy book conversation, book study, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, so excited for the next part.
I want to say part 2, I think like really brings it. I feel like when I was reading it, there were certain times and I was like, whoa, he went a little dark. And yeah, so get ready. It goes from dark, but there's so much light too, if you look.
Yeah, and it piggybacks off our part 1 when we really focus on the theme of honesty. And I think that's what makes this book so attractive is his honesty, because he does. I mean, there were some dark parts, but you know, it's real.
Exactly.
It shows how it goes from darkness to light.
Absolutely.
And that's how life is in general. It's not just written in a book and it's just like, this relates to one person, relates to us too. It's how one day we're in darkness and next we're stepping out into the light. One day we're in the storm, next we're into rainbows and, sunny skies.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So James, you're gonna kick us off with the part that you were thinking of.
So I was thinking of emptiness, which is on page 40, and it starts off with, "There have been moments of unbelievable abundance in my life, but I have also experienced moments of staggering emptiness." And I want to reflect upon that for a little bit. And it's almost like, I feel like that emptiness comes from the downs of life. And it's also worth mentioning that emptiness, that, darkness, it won't last forever. It's temporary. And that goes into life can change in a single moment, which is found on page 48, when it says, "Life can change in a single moment. This is not just the stuff of movies and fairy tales. Your life really can change in an instant, for better or for worse." And reflecting upon that a little bit, I almost feel like it's how life can, sometimes it's at the top of the wave and other times it's at the bottom. At one moment you're riding the wave and you're, shredding the wave and surfing on a surfboard. And then next you're like, going through the washing machine of the wave and getting thrown up and slammed down. And it's just, everything can change in a moment. Shout out to my dad there. I'm sure you know what that feels like. And that leads on to a part about mercy. And it talks about how him and his friends used to play this game where it was like they would, like, I don't know, pull each other's like hands and fingers and
like
stuff.
this.
And
It's called Mercy. Anybody from my generation and versus knows what it is. We used to play it all the time, bunch of idiots. But we loved it.
and it's like you would do it until one person yelled, "Mercy, mercy." And it's almost like at the end he says, "Sometimes I wish I could call mercy on life, and that doing so would relieve the pressure and the pain, not indefinitely, just long enough for me to catch my breath and recollect myself." And going based on that part of mercy about just calling, "Mercy, let me, breathe a little bit." It's almost like sometimes you just don't got that luxury in life. And the best thing you could do is force that breath in. I know it's hard. It ain't going to be easy. And sometimes the best way to get that breath is to push through that thing that you're going through right now so that you can get to that breath. It's almost like when you're tired and you're procrastinating, really, trust me, I've done that with homework before. The best thing you could do is to just get it over with. Just move through it so that you could breathe, so that you could rest, so that you could sleep. I know a lot of people, especially college kids, I don't know if there's any of you watching this, but I know sometimes when you have a lot of work, what you do is you do it all night. You don't really get that break, or you're, out partying and then you come back and you still have work to do, and it's procrastinating, you're staying up all night and you're not getting the proper sleep. And sometimes just get that work over with so you can enjoy life. And I want to go back to, everything and just sum it up into a point where it's almost like life isn't easy. And there are going to be moments of the tops of the mountains, but there's also going to be lows where it's like you're falling off the mountain. You're at the bottom of the mountain. You have to reclimb it or reclimb another mountain. And that can change in an instant. One moment you're at the top, the next you're at the bottom having to climb again, or sometimes you're even in the middle. And then that leads into mercy, where it is if you give yourself that mercy, that understanding that, yes, you are tired, but you could do this. When you have hope with that mercy, it is love and it is what will push you through.
Yeah, I would like to touch upon when you spoke of the emptiness and the being at like different parts of the wave or different parts of the mountain. I just listened recently to a podcast on gratitude, and they were talking about thanking God for any moment or any situation in your life. And, when life feels the messiest or even just a little messy, it's like, why would I thank him for this? And the bigger question that they posed was, what does it mean if I thank him for this? What am I afraid of if I thank him in this moment? And one of the podcasters was saying, like, if I thank this person, if I thank God for this situation with this person who has hurt me, then does it mean I just accept it? Does it mean that it's just going to go away and I'm okay with it? And the truth is, like, no, it's not. Like, you don't have to be afraid to be grateful of the place of the mountain that you're on, or where if you're at the, in the washing machine of the wave, as you spoke about it, like, thank you, Jesus, for bringing me here. And what am I supposed to learn here? Or how can I grow closer to you or to the people around me in it? And it's just like, it's thanking him for every situation, and I think that we can learn anything from any situation, and it doesn't have to be super giant and it doesn't have to be super whatever. Like, it just, in any moment, we can show that gratitude. And I think it does pull us from that stuck point on the wave or the mountain.
And I could see the ugliness of it too. It's like the ugly of the life situation that could be happening, like the ugliness of betrayal, the ugliness of hurt, the ugliness of like broken bones, the ugliness of loss. And it's like, that's when you're in that washing machine. It's funny because another podcast was talking about, actually, she was a surfer and she was stuck in that. And so she was describing it in great detail. And when you come up and the wave pushes you out and it's like you want to gasp for air, but you're choking on it. And sometimes I feel like that's what it feels like when you're in the middle of the wave, when you're in the middle of the storm. You feel like you're just choking on life. You're like, you can't breathe, you can't get the air in. But the honesty and the authenticity and the reality of like, no, you can. Like, just keep going. Don't stop fighting. I think that's the part of it. But it doesn't exclude those other parts. But you don't stay there. You never stay in that part. There is always a resurrection. There is always a resurrection. You just have to keep grasping for it. Keep trying to swim up. Keep trying to get out of this washing machine of that wave. And I've never surfed a day in my life, so that analogy means nothing to me, but I could imagine it with my mind.
Yeah, and I keep seeing like myself in a wave, like being tossed and turned and flipped over and sand in my hair and hitting my head somewhere. And like, in a moment like that, do you just let it go? Do you just let yourself drown? Or no, you don't. You kind of like, even if you're still being washed and turned, you like jump up and you're like, you grab the air and maybe you get tossed back down again or whatever. But like, it's like, ride the wave, like let it take you back to the shore, be in it, come up for air, big, small, and then just like, again, like let it go. And it's like, oh, finally I'm back on the shoreline. I can stand, I can breathe again. I can.
Yeah. And that breath feels so good.
Oh, yeah.
It feels so good.
You
it
can
feels
almost like
better.
feel it right now, like
feels,
in your chest.
Yes. It feels better than it did even before, because you can have a better appreciation for life, for the good.
Yeah.
I want to say it's almost like I've been through, I mean, it was a very small one because I only surf like 2 to 3 foot waves, but I know what it's like to get almost flipped and slammed into the, ground because I idiotically went for a wave that was already closing out. But so what happens is you get pushed under and you're freaking out, but the best thing you could do is just relax. And that's what my dad always says. It's same thing with boxing. It's the same thing with surfing. You're much better when you're relaxed, when you just not just let it happen, but it's almost like submitting to God. Submit it to God. Give it to God. Yeah, I know. Thanking God for the bad is a struggle, but in the wave, when you I guess really submit yourself to God, when you give up almost, it is what almost lets you relax and float back up because your board is already on the surface. So all you have to do is kind of just pull yourself up and you'll be fine. It's the panicking and the stress, that irrational fear is what keeps you down there. And it's the same thing with boxing. When you're tense and stuff, everything hurts a lot more. It's hard to move. It's hard to absorb the punches. It's hard to punch back. It's just tougher in general. So once you finally let it go and give it to God and, give the thanks, it is what allows you to move on.
This is so cool, and it reminds me of a real life situation that happened recently with our friends Matt and Tanya. Their youngest boy had an accident on the playground, and he broke his wrist, and it was such a bad injury that he had to get taken from one hospital to another hospital, and they were messaging in this like all right, send prayer now, and it was like this moment of fear and stress and like let's just looking for the light, but watching the suffering. And it's such a hard thing when someone you love is hurting like that, especially a little one. And it was everyone kept checking in. How is he? How is he? How is he? And one of the pictures that they sent after was him in the hospital with his cast on. And then there was a priest who happened to walk in and said a beautiful prayer over them. And what they ended up doing was sending all these blessing messages, such a blessing, this place is holy. And I'm like, wow, it's an amazing thing to watch how you do ride that wave, that wave of fear, that wave of uncertainty, that wave of coming out the other side of it, and watching that family who we love so much have to handle something so scary. It's like your family. And it's okay, and thank God, everything worked out. But the storm is the storm, and you got to go through it,
It reminds me of when popping up on a wave, once you stand up, you want to be loose, but you want to keep your stance.
Yeah.
So it's almost like with God, you want to stand upon the rock. You want to keep that balanced stance, but just like in boxing too, when you're loose and you're moving too with it and keeping your base strong, but keeping yourself loose, it is what allows you to let a lot of the shots roll off of you, and it's what allows you to stay up on the wave.
Yeah.
So it's almost like keep that firm foundation in God, but also remember that everything, all of this bad, it's not permanent. It's temporary.
And it's there, and it matters, and you acknowledge it.
Absolutely.
And that's what I think that's what we got from that section. So the next section that we were going to talk about in this extremely difficult part of life is messy. I told Marissa, I was like, this is a tough section of the book. There was parts in it that were so difficult. And one of the parts he was talking about was speaking of how we hurt each other, how as humans we gossip and we kill each other sometimes with our words, and we hurt each other with character assassination. And I was like, wow, I'm like, this is really dark. And I was thinking people, we are like that. If we're honest, there are times in our life when we talk about other people or when we're spoken about. And I think what he really addresses in this book is that sometimes we hurt each other. It's not always just a physical thing. Sometimes words that are spoken against another person can create fear, can create sadness, loneliness, isolation. I mean, and you see it so much on social media, and he does get into the social media aspect of it. And I see it a lot, especially, at my job. But then he gets to this section where he says thoughtless, careless, and reckless. And he says, we've all seen people behave recklessly and carelessly. Perhaps we wonder to ourselves, how could someone behave so recklessly? The origin of recklessness is thoughtlessness. We have all been thoughtless, and we have all been the victims of other people's thoughtlessness. It stings, but the pain doesn't linger for long. If we are thoughtless often enough, we become careless. If you have ever been on the receiving end of carelessness, you know it changes you. When people are careless with our safety, or careless with our trust, or careless with our hearts, it hurts, and the pain is real. And that part really stood out to me. And I could, I think every human person can relate with that hurting of the heart because you feel betrayed. When you put trust in other people and you have an expectation that they're your people and that they're there for you, and then they're not, it really does leave you feeling so wounded and so lonely and alone. But at the same time, when I was reading it, I was like, I don't want to look at that. I don't want to look at that negative because it is so negative.
And as soon as you started reading your section, all I kept thinking of was that saying, sticks and stones may hurt my bones,
but names will never.
Words will never hurt. And it's like, I remember I was like, liar. Yes. Like, the words always hurt, or the way we do it, go about certain things really do hurt us so badly. And probably maybe even more than the sticks and stones, It's like, you thought of me that little that you could say that thing about me or do that thing in that way. And again, I don't fault you for making a decision or for doing something to make the right step for you. But the way you did it, was so mean.
It's almost like nothing breaks like a heart.
Ooh.
So
oh my.
I don't know. I find that situation, the person might have been selfish, but I know I've been selfish. It's not easy to just, show mercy, really, to another person. It's not easy to just still love someone after they hurt you.
Yeah.
But it's something that can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the part of it too. It's the heartbreak. It's like you were my person. You were somebody that I trusted. You were somebody that I stood by and you stood by me. And now it's like, where did that go? Where did that trust go? Where did the respect go? And I'm talking about just my own self at this point. It's like, I don't always consider, and I haven't always been considered. And I could remember one time having gone to confession about that and said to the priest, I was like, yeah, well, this is what happened or whatever. And, but it's okay. And I just remember him looking at me and being like, no, actually, that's not true. It really isn't okay. And don't sweep it under the rug. Don't spiritually bypass your feelings or your emotions. Just be honest. Honest again. Just be honest about how it is that you feel. And you have a right to feel that way. And I think that's the thing too. It's like when you're hurt, you have a right to feel that way. And when you hurt others, I think you have a right and a responsibility maybe sometimes to recognize what part was played in it, because you just never know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And it's really hard for me personally. It's really hard to give my trust. So for it to be broken is like,
And I think
talk
that's
about
the hardest
the wave.
Yeah. I think that's the hardest part. The hardest part is when somebody that you loved or somebody you trusted feels like they betrayed you.
Yeah.
And betrayal's tough. I think
Absolutely.
it's just something that we all struggle with,
Yeah, absolutely. But the honesty about those feelings and going through that it's like, okay, what opportunities, Jesus, are you going to provide for in this moment?
Yeah. Because there's always something new that he's going to be willing to do in the circumstance.
Yeah, so I just going to my section that I found to be so profound. I'm kind of going to jump between three little parts. And I think it's a really good segue is turning to God. And when do we turn to God? Because I think, myself included, Matthew Kelly does such a great way of explaining it on page 41. He says, I have tried to fill the void with work, pleasure, comfort, things, and plans for my future. But none of these bring the satisfaction because those things don't rightfully belong in the void. And I'm like, yes, like that was me. Like trying to fill the void with every little thing at one point in my life and really being like, none of these are working anymore. So what now? And he then says they have all been equally ineffective except for one. He said there's only one approach that has ever worked consistently. I know it works, but still I resist it, preferring the other distractions than the real solution. And on the next page, on page 42, he says, I have only found one way that works. Find a quiet place, sit down, close your eyes, acknowledge God's presence, breathe deeply, talk to him briefly about how life has left you empty, and ask God to fill you. And first of all, the part where he says, I prefer all the other distractions, it's so true. Yes. You know, I could know what works. I could know that praying to God or stopping into church is the right thing to do, being honest, all those things. But sometimes it's really good to just be angry and, you know, hash it out with your friends or, you know, turn to like a night out or whatever. Like it's like all the distractions usually feel so much better in the moment. But the only solution really is to turn to him in that honesty, in that emptiness when you don't feel like life is filling you in those ways. And I think the beauty of cultivating a relationship with him and starting to do those things. I mean, that was the prescription and he was my first encounter with somebody, a spiritual, inspirational speaker, you know, obviously besides you, Janine, but that was his prescription, 10 minutes a day.
That's it.
That's it. And it's like watching what happened over my life in the past 11 years from 10 minutes a day, maybe one, maybe an hour, maybe not 10 minutes for a month, but watching my life from those 10 minutes transform has filled the void that nothing else ever could. And I don't think anything ever could again, you know, and then you do know, and then it does become the number one thing I think that you want to do, you know. And it's like going to him and slowing down, which was my next favorite part of this section that we're talking about. He said that if we don't slow down, like I think we miss things, you know, and I think we become these robots just moving at this fast pace of life that life was never meant to be lived. On page 51, he says, life isn't a race, it's a dance. Every step forward and every step back, stepping sidewards and twirling in circles are all part of the dance we call life. Simply slowing down improves almost everything in our lives. And I think that's what those 10 minutes a day with God do for us. They help us slow down. They help us to see. And they help us to then become what he calls in a little bit later in this section is ambassadors of hope.
I feel like it's such a, like, to me, it's like the last choice. For me, it was like he was my last choice.
Yeah.
It was like you try everything else, you know, you try everything else. And then finally it's like, oh, well, maybe I can give that a try. And I don't mean give it a try in that, okay, you know, let's write your prescription of like, go to church every day, you know, read the Bible every day, memorize your catechism, memorize your prayers. All of that can come. But I think that simplicity of just try for 10 minutes and talk to God.
Yeah.
Like that's the part of it that I think we, you know, okay, instead of just focusing on your breathing and different ways of connecting with whatever, try God. It is the difference. He is the difference. And he is, to me, he's the last choice. When I want to lose weight, working out every day for 30 minutes a day is my last choice. It's the last thing I want to do. Do I want to watch my diet? Do I want to eat healthy? Do I want to do all those things if I want to get back in shape? I don't always want to. But once you do, the benefit far outweighs every struggle it took to get there. But I think 10 minutes is simple enough. You know, I mean, we are going to be in Advent. So why not just for Advent, try it 10 minutes. Even if you only do 5, like you said, 1 minute, just talk to God, make it about him. Watch what he does. And maybe throw in his mom too, because she's like amazing lately.
I want to say it's almost like we tend to find escapisms. So it's like instead of just living through this reality, we try to make another or escape to another where it's safer, or we think it's safer. In reality, that's a reality without our God. And it's typically it happens just because we want something to control. It's all about control, and I feel like that's what it is, escaping reality. It's where you're safe is where you're in control.
Yes.
Where you manipulate everything, where everything is under your hand and your foot and it's ruled by you. And that's why I feel like it's so easy for people to fall into the trap of the phone, is because typically you think you're in control. Meanwhile, it's comparing you to this guy and then comparing you to this one and then comparing you to this one. And now it's like slowly your self-esteem goes down and down and down, and your social ability goes down and down and down. It's dangerous, but that's just how some people are. They rely on the phone, you know, drugs even, and stuff like that. And it's so dangerous, but they don't even realize it. Or even if they do, they fall into the trap and they can't get out of it.
Well, I think the question is, and it's like, what if I lay it all out there to God? What if I decide to ride the wave? What if I give up my addiction, whether it's drugs or the phone or having my house clean at all times? What happens if? Who am I then? Will I get hurt even more? You know,
Fear.
it's such like it's just such a fear of stepping into that. And it does take a lot of courage. He talks about courage also. It takes a lot of courage to step in to a church, to spend that minute, that 5 minutes, that 10 minutes with God. It takes courage to come to our prayer meeting. It takes courage to listen to a song sometimes that might pierce your heart. But the beauty of it, when you do consistently, and when you give him a chance, doesn't compare to anything that you'd be giving up.
Yeah, it's fear. I think fear and control, they go hand in hand. It's like when something goes off or something's not working how you want it to work in your life, you want to fix it. You want to manage it. You want to control it. I mean, we want to control people. We want to control relationships. This person isn't who I want them to be. This person isn't behaving how I want them to behave. And you know, or this person's not going to church anymore. Do you know how many people, like I hear that and like, listen, I want everyone to go to church. I do. I really, really do. But I'm not afraid when they don't, because I still think God is who he is. And to me, if I'm asking and if the door is open, and it always is, then why should I be afraid? To me, it's like, I don't want to be afraid of that. I don't want to be afraid of somebody not being perfect. I don't want to be afraid of that. I don't want to be afraid of another perspective. I don't want to be afraid of somebody who has a different political perspective than me. I don't want to be afraid of anybody. I want to have an open heart to say, okay, I might not see things the way that you do. Tell me your story. Just tell me your story, because your story matters too. And maybe your story is what led you to be where you are, but can I share mine? And I think there's this unity that should be brought, this joined feeling of like, no, we can do this together. We can. And fear is what keeps us separate. But maybe if we can just like love, like James is always saying, it's probably the end of the day. It's just what it is. It's just loving people more, accepting people, and not being afraid.
Yeah.
Don't have to change you. It's okay. You know?
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. I think that was one of the best things that ever happened to me, was a really good friend who loved Jesus so much and was not afraid to let me be me when I didn't love Jesus very much, you know, when I didn't know him, when I didn't want anything to do with him. And it was like to not be afraid of me where I was made me safe enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And not being afraid of like not being there yet, being where I am, like having that acceptance, that love, and that hope for people.
Yeah.
Exactly where they are.
Yeah.
And we're meant to be in companions together. He has this beautiful story that I would like to end with. And it's
Yes.
like a hard story, but it's just like, I think this relationship with God, this slowing down, this time with him allows us the room to be there in ways for other people, even when it, especially in not a fixing way, and just like a inspirational way, I want to say. So on page 71, the section called Ambassadors of Hope, he shares this story about himself. He was on his way home from work and one of his friends came into his mind. And I think we talked about that in a couple of episodes ago. Like if somebody is on your mind, it's usually God placing them on your heart and in your mind for a reason, and like react to that.
Reach out.
So he says he showed up at this friend's house, and when he had opened the door, he didn't look good. Place was dark. There was garbage everywhere. We opened up the curtains and let some light in. He said, I suggested that he shave and take a shower while I order a pizza. And he said, come on, well, you'll feel so much better when we're done with pizza. They ended up sitting on his front porch eating pizza and sharing stories and just, I guess, having like a great time. He went home. That was the end of the night. The next day, he opened up his mailbox to find this handwritten note from the friend. And the note said, I was going to kill myself last night, but then you stopped by just to say hello. And I thought to myself, wow, somebody does care. So thank you. And it's like, what? Like, just the thought of this person and him acting on and being obedient to just reach out to his friend saved his life.
One action can change a whole life.
Absolutely. And I want to end with the quotes that he says, which is mimicking that. Something like this stops you in your tracks. It reminds you how powerful our actions are and how tragic inaction can be. The point is, our actions can tip the balance between hope and despair. That is a power that should be used often and respected always.
Wow. Well, that was pretty amazing.
Right?
All right. So, ambassadors of hope. That's what we're supposed to be. Life is messy, but we can still have hope.
It's almost like even with fear, as long as your focal point is love, fear can't overcome you.
No.
Amen.
Let's get out of that wave that I've never been in.
Ride the wave, people. Ride the wave.
All right. Tiny miracles.
Let's do it.
All right. So my tiny miracle is going to be, I spoke of the pellet stove last week and I talked about how like it basically saved my house, but it really is an amazing thing. Like I feel so blessed to have it in my home. It is the coolest thing. It heats the whole entire house and like I don't know. It's I don't really fully understand it because you have to use your phone to do it. And Mike tried to show me and I was like, okay. And I think I understand it to a certain degree, but I don't know. The thing is so cool. And that's my tiny miracle. I love it. And it looks so cool. The fire in it looks so cool.
Yeah, it's so cozy.
And no smell. There's no smell.
I know. It's the best part. My tiny miracle is over the weekend, I had gone shopping for some Christmas decorations. And when I have something in my mind that I want to buy and I have a vision of how it looks in my house. And so I had these two specific things I wanted to buy. The store was chaos. There were so many people everywhere. I couldn't find what I was looking for. I searched the store over and over and over again. And I was like, whatever, I'll just find it somewhere else. No big deal. I get online. The line's at the end of the store. I've never seen a longer line before. I get online, wait online. As I'm turning the corner to go to the registers, what I was looking for was on the absolute last shelf of the store. And I was like, oh my God, that's it. That's what I was searching the store for. So of course I spent an extra $50, but like it was there.
So for me, it actually comes from the healing mass as well, connected to mine last week about the chalice. But so, in boxing, when you get new boxing shoes, typically if they're not broken in and you use them, you get major blisters all over your feet. And so, of course, what happened to me was I got brand new boxing shoes and I went 8 rounds straight for sparring. So I got like a lot of big blisters all over my feet. And I go into the healing mass and I'm like, honestly, if there's anything I want healed, it's my feet because,
They're killing me.
No one likes blisters. But so it's like, at the end of the mass, I'm like, well, this is crazy. Nearly all the blisters feel like they're gone. They like almost like shrunk, and then by the next day they were all completely gone. And this was within 2 days. So there's no way that could have been normal. It was a literal miracle.
Wow. Amazing.
That's amazing. All right, guys. So next episode, we will be talking about the sections from about page 76 to page 100. So.
All right. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Have a great week and happy Advent.
Yeah, happy Advent. And please share any reflections, any thoughts, any stories that you have that match our episode or previous episodes on our Facebook or Instagram, TikTok, wherever you have us on social media.
And like and subscribe and share the podcast if it's helped you at all.
Thank you so much, guys. See you next week.
Keep chilling, penicillin.